the Johnson family, consisting of Father John, Mother Emily, and their 3-year-old son Max, always loved weekend picnics. They lived in a peaceful small town nestled against the Appalachian Mountains, surrounded by dense forests and pristine streams. That weekend, as usual, the Johnsons decided to set out for some fresh air and to forget the stresses of daily life. Max, with his big round eyes and golden hair, eagerly carried his tiny backpack, which held only his favorite teddy bear and a small water bottle. Emily carefully prepared the food, while John meticulously checked the map to ensure they would camp in a safe spot. They chose a familiar location beside a small, babbling brook, where Max could play safely in the water. The sky that day was clear, and golden sunlight streamed through the treetops, creating a serene, picturesque scene. Max ran excitedly among the low bushes, occasionally shouting with delight when he spotted a squirrel leaping by or bent down to pick up a fallen leaf. "Don't go too far, Max," Emily called after him when she noticed him running out of sight. Max turned back, flashing a cheeky grin and holding up a small rock he had just found. Before darting off again, John smiled, not overly concerned, as they were familiar with the area. But just minutes later, an eerie silence fell. Emily realized she could no longer hear Max's giggles. She called his name, but there was no response. Panic flashed across her face as she turned to John. "Have you seen Max?" John jumped to his feet, his heart pounding. They quickly split up to search the area, but there was no sign of Max. A wave of fear washed over Emily. Could he have wandered deeper into the forest? "We need to call for help." News of Max's disappearance quickly spread throughout the small town. In this close-knit community, where everyone knew each other, the thought of a 3-year-old boy lost in the forest spurred everyone into action. The first person Emily thought of was Paul, a former soldier and the leader of the local rescue team. Paul, a man in his 50s with a strong build, graying hair, and a steadfast gaze, was highly respected not only for his experience but also for his unwavering dedication. Paul arrived less than 30 minutes after the call, bringing Bailey, his famous rescue dog. Bailey, a golden retriever with soft, sleek fur and intelligent eyes, was more than just a loyal companion. He was an indispensable member of the rescue missions Paul had led in the past. Through tears, Emily recounted what had happened, while John held out Max's small jacket for Bailey to sniff. Paul reassured the family gently. "We'll find Max. Bailey has never failed." The rescue team was quickly assembled, including many volunteers from the town. They came prepared with flashlights, ropes, and provisions for what might turn into a prolonged search. As dusk began to settle, the team set out, guided by Bailey. Bailey moved confidently, his sensitive nose picking up every trace of a scent. Paul stayed close to the dog, while the others split up to search designated areas. The forest grew darker, and the unfamiliar sounds of the wilderness added to the tension. Meanwhile, Max was huddled in a dense bush. At first, he hadn't realized he was lost. He had been chasing a little squirrel and slipped down a small slope. Though unhurt, when he got up and looked around, everything seemed unfamiliar. Max called for his mom, but the only response was the echo of his voice among the trees. As darkness fell, fear began to set in. The temperature in the forest dropped quickly, and the sounds of insects filled the air. Clutching his teddy bear tightly, Max's eyes brimmed with tears. Still, he tried to remember what his dad had taught him about staying safe in the woods. Spotting a large hollow tree, Max crawled inside, finding it just big enough to shield him from the cold wind. He whispered to himself, as if to stay brave, "Mom and Dad will find me, I just have to wait." But deep down, Max trembled with fear. It was close to midnight when Bailey suddenly stopped. The dog lifted his nose high, sniffing the air, and then began barking loudly. Paul immediately halted, signaling the team to move closer. "There's something here," Paul said, his eyes lighting up with hope. Bailey led them to a dense bush, where they found a small hat. It was the same hat Max had been wearing on their outing. Emily burst into tears as the hat was brought to her. But Paul reassured her. This is a good sign. Max is still nearby. The rescue team expanded their search around the area. Bailey kept leading the way, his tail wagging vigorously as if he knew he was close to completing his mission. Up ahead, amidst the thick trees, a faint sound broke the silence. It was the soft sobbing of a child. Bailey suddenly picked up speed, running faster than Paul. When they reached the spot, under the beam of a flashlight, they saw Max, his tear-filled eyes glistening, clutching his teddy bear tightly. Emily and John rushed forward, wrapping their son in their arms, tears streaming down their faces. Bailey sat beside them, gently wagging his tail, like a hero quietly savoring the victory. Paul smiled, looking at Bailey. You did well, my friend. The rescue team erupted in cheers and applause. Overwhelmed with relief and joy, Max was brought safely back home. But this moment marked the beginning of a story that would forever change their small town. Max was brought back to town in the safe embrace of his parents. But the search for him left a deep impression on everyone involved. As the rescue vehicle entered the town, people lined the streets, their worried expressions softening into relief as they saw Max clinging tightly to his mother. At the Johnsons' home, the local doctor was already there to check on Max's health. The boy had only a few minor scratches and was slightly dehydrated, but he was visibly shaken. Emily stayed close to him, holding him tightly and soothing him. Max sat quietly, clutching his teddy bear as if it were the only thing keeping him grounded. Bailey, after a long night of searching, rested at Paul's feet. The dog lay with his eyes half closed, perking up only when he heard an unfamiliar sound. Paul gently stroked Bailey's head, smiling. You deserve a good rest, my friend. You're the hero of the day. Despite his exhaustion, Max looked up at Bailey. Slowly, he slipped out of his mother's arms and walked toward the dog. You're the one who found me, aren't you? Max said in a hoarse voice before leaning down to hug Bailey. In that moment, everyone in the room felt the special bond forming between the boy and the rescue dog. As dawn broke, the entire town seemed transformed. Those who had participated in the search for Max the night before hadn't gone home yet. Instead, they gathered at the community center to share in the joy of the rescue. Everyone had their own story to tell about the moment Bailey found Max. The town's mayor, Clara, stood up to address the crowd. What we accomplished last night wasn't just about saving Max. It showed us something far greater. We are stronger when we come together. Bailey was the hero of the night, but the contributions of everyone here were just as vital. After the gathering, many residents volunteered to support the Johnson family. Some prepared meals for them, while others helped clean up the search equipment. The event rekindled a spirit of community that had been missing in the town for years. Paul, who had led the rescue team, became the focus of countless thank yous. But he only smiled and pointed to Bailey. The one who deserves the most thanks is Bailey. Without this dog, it might have taken us much longer, and the outcome could have been very different. It took Max a few days to calm down and open up about his experience in the forest. He recounted how terrified he had felt at first when he realized he was lost. But then, he remembered what his dad had taught him. Always find a safe place and stay put if you get lost. I found a big tree with a hollow, and I crawled inside to hide from the rain. While I was there, I met a squirrel, Max shared, his eyes lighting up as he spoke about the little friend who had helped him stay positive. I named him Sammy. He wasn't scared of me. I think he was lost too, just like me. Max's story deeply moved his parents, and they realized it was his courage and memory of his dad's advice that had helped him survive the night in the forest. But what warmed their hearts the most was when Max said, I knew you would find me. I just had to wait. Max's story quickly spread throughout the town, becoming more than just a tale of a child's survival. It became a lesson in hope and trust, inspiring everyone who heard it. While the town was still reveling in the joy of the reunion, an unexpected event loomed on the horizon. A severe storm was forecasted to hit the area in a few days. threatening the lives of families in the town, particularly those living near the forest's edge. Mayor Clara quickly convened an emergency meeting to prepare for the storm. She called on Paul and the rescue team. Knowing their experience in organizing searches and managing emergencies, Paul didn't hesitate and stepped up to take charge, this time with Bailey faithfully by his side. I believe our town has already shown the power of unity. If we could find Max deep in the forest, then we can certainly weather this storm together, Paul said with confidence. The community swiftly organized into teams, each responsible for specific tasks, evacuating those in high-risk areas, stockpiling food and water, securing homes, and ensuring the safety of livestock. Bailey, though unable to speak, was ever present beside Paul, a constant reminder of courage and loyalty. The children in town began calling him the Golden Hero and often gathered around him, petting him and sharing stories. When the storm finally arrived, it brought strong winds and heavy rain. However, thanks to the town's thorough preparations, no significant damage occurred. Once the storm passed, the townsfolk realized that it wasn't just Bailey who had saved the day. It was their unity and collective effort that had helped them overcome the challenge. After the storm, the town held a small celebration. During the event, Max, cradled in his mother's arms, walked up to Bailey, crouched down to hug him again, and whispered, "You didn't just save me, you saved the whole town. I love you." Bailey wagged his tail and licked Max's cheek, a loving response that warmed the hearts of everyone present. After the storm, the forest surrounding the town was heavily damaged. Large trees had fallen, and familiar trails were buried under mud and debris. Paul, Bailey, and a group of town volunteers decided to venture into the forest to assess the situation and clear any dangerous areas. Bailey led the team, his keen nose helping them navigate safely. The forest was now a desolate and soggy scene. Each step had to be taken carefully to avoid slipping. As the group moved deeper into the woods, Bailey suddenly stopped. The dog sniffed the air intently, his tail wagging slightly in what seemed like a warning. "Something's not right," Paul said, his expression turning serious. He signaled the group to halt. Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound echoed. Before anyone could react, the ground beneath Bailey gave way, revealing a deep mud-filled pit. Bailey fell in. The team rushed over, horrified to see the dog trapped, struggling to climb out as the slippery mud made it impossible. "Bailey!" Paul called out, his voice filled with worry. Dropping to his knees, he quickly grabbed a rope, trying to rescue the dog. The others joined in to help, but pulling Bailey up proved challenging as the mud was deep and heavy. Despite being stuck, Bailey remained calm. He tried to grip the rope Paul threw down, his trusting eyes fixed on his owner. After several attempts, the team finally managed to pull Bailey out. The dog, drenched and covered in mud, wagged his tail happily, unbothered by his ordeal. Paul knelt down and wrapped his arms tightly around Bailey, tears welling up in his eyes. "You did so well, my friend. You're a true fighter." After rescuing Bailey, the team decided to continue checking the remaining areas of the forest. As night fell, the beams of their flashlights became their only source of light. Despite his recent ordeal, Bailey led the way with unwavering sharpness and determination. Suddenly, Bailey stopped again, this time at a spot where the storm had uncovered a narrow path hidden beneath thick foliage. The dog barked loudly and ran toward the path, signaling Paul and the team to follow. As they ventured down the path, they stumbled upon a strange sight, a small, weathered wooden cabin, concealed by overgrown trees and plants. The cabin appeared to have been abandoned for a very long time. Its door was slightly ajar, and a thick layer of dust coated everything. Paul and another team member cautiously approached, pushing the door open to reveal signs that someone had once lived there. Inside, they discovered a small wooden box containing old photographs, a journal, and a few personal belongings. The photographs depicted a family of 3, a couple and a young child. The final photograph was dated over 20 years ago, Paul froze for a moment as he skimmed through the journal. It told the story of a family who had chosen to live in the forest to escape societal pressures, but had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The discovery piqued the curiosity of the entire team, and they decided to bring the items back to town to investigate further. When Paul and the rescue team returned to town, they brought the photographs and journal to the local library for further investigation. Mrs. Helen, the town's eldest librarian, immediately recognized the family in the photos. She explained that it was the Dawson family, who had lived in the town over 2 decades ago. They disappeared mysteriously, Mrs. Helen said, her voice tinged with sadness. They were once very social, but after losing their young son in an accident, they became reclusive and decided to leave town to live in the forest. No one ever heard from them again. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Paul realized that the wooden cabin they had discovered was where the Dawson family had lived. However, what had happened to them remained a mystery. The final entries in the journal hinted that the mother had fallen gravely ill, and the father was struggling to find a way to save her. The discovery stirred deep emotions throughout the town. People felt a profound sense of sorrow for the Dawson family and decided to hold a small memorial service to honor their memory. The memorial service was held at the town center, where people gathered to hear the story of the Dawson family. Mayor Clara addressed the crowd, saying, "The story of the Dawson family reminds us that no one should face hardships alone. We are a community, and it is our duty to support one another." Paul also spoke, sharing his experience of discovering the wooden cabin. He emphasized that if the community had been as united back then as it is now, perhaps the Dawson family would not have endured such loneliness and sorrow. Bailey, the silent hero, sat quietly beside Paul. Though the dog could not speak, his presence was a powerful reminder of the importance of love and loyalty. The ceremony concluded with an emotional moment as everyone lit candles and vowed to build a stronger community where no one is left behind. After the memorial service, the town not only felt the sorrow of the Dawson family's story but also awakened to the importance of unity and compassion. This story, along with the search for Max, became a poignant reminder that caring for and helping one another is the greatest strength a community can have. Paul, along with the rescue team and guided by Bailey, decided to return to the Dawson family's cabin for a more thorough examination. Despite the house being damaged by time and nature, they discovered items of historical value, including a box containing letters and a notebook filled with lessons on wilderness survival. These lessons not only provided practical knowledge but also revealed how the Dawson family had made earnest efforts to adapt to their challenging life. Paul brought these items back to town and proposed turning them into part of the local library as a way to preserve the Dawson family's legacy. Mayor Clara agreed immediately, and the town began preparing a small exhibit in the library, naming it The Dawson Legacy. The story of the Dawson family, coupled with the rescue of Max, started spreading beyond the town through local newspapers and news outlets. People from other areas began visiting to learn about and admire the spirit of unity in this small town. The story of Bailey didn't end with finding Max or leading the rescue team to the Dawson family's cabin. The intelligent, brave, and loyal golden retriever had become a symbol of the town. Mayor Clara decided to hold a special ceremony to honor Bailey. The event took place in the town square, where people of all ages gathered to express their gratitude to the remarkable dog. A small statue of Bailey, crafted from granite, was unveiled in the park as a symbol of hope and courage. During the ceremony, Max stood in front of the statue and spoke in his clear, youthful voice, "I don't have much to say, but I just want to thank Bailey for saving me and always being my best friend." When Max bent down to hug Bailey, the square erupted in applause and laughter. Bailey didn't understand all the words, but he could feel the overwhelming love from everyone. His tail wagged nonstop, and his bright eyes seemed to say he was proud to be part of this community. Following these extraordinary events, the spirit of the town seemed completely revitalized. Mayor Clara and Paul decided to establish a professional rescue team for the town, with Bailey appointed as the honorary trainer. The rescue team was now better equipped and included many young volunteers who were inspired by the story of Bailey and the Dawson family. One of the rescue team's first projects was rebuilding the forest trails, ensuring safety for residents and visitors alike. As always, Bailey led the way, accompanying Paul to inspect each area. With every cleared trail, the team celebrated with small picnics where people shared stories and lessons learned from their recent experiences. Additionally, the town began organizing more community activities, such as charity fairs, forest safety presentations, and rescue dog training classes. These activities not only enhanced knowledge but also strengthened the bonds among the townspeople. The story of Bailey, Max, and the Dawson family continued to inspire, retold not only in the town but also in surrounding areas. A small book titled Bailey's Journey was even published, capturing the memorable events alongside photographs and profound lessons about compassion and unity. That winter, the town held a special ceremony to inaugurate a new rescue center named the Bailey Hope Center. It was not only a place for training rescue dogs, but also a community hub for emergency support. Max, now 4 years old, was invited to cut the ribbon. Holding Paul's hand, he led Bailey onto the stage, where hundreds of people cheered and clapped. In his speech, Paul spoke with emotion. Bailey is not just a rescue dog. He is a symbol of loyalty, love, and the belief that we are always stronger when we stand together. The ceremony ended with everyone lighting candles, a gesture of gratitude for the miracles life had brought them. The flickering candles illuminated the cold winter night, warming the hearts of every person in the town. In that moment, Bailey stood at the center of the circle of light, his eyes gazing at the people who had always loved and cherished him. Paul knelt down, gently stroking Bailey's head, and whispered, "You did it, my friend. You didn't just save a child. You saved an entire community." Bailey's story didn't end there. It became an unforgettable part of the town's history, and every time someone looked at the statue of Bailey in the town park, they were reminded that kindness, love, and unity are the greatest strengths to overcome any challenge in life. The story of Bailey and Max didn't remain confined to the small town. A journalist from a major newspaper came across the events through social media posts by the townsfolk. He traveled to the town, documenting every detail of the rescue, the memorial for the Dawson family, and the positive transformation within the community. His article, titled "The Golden Hero of Appalachian Town," quickly went viral across the United States. The story not only moved readers but also inspired other communities to establish local rescue teams. Letters poured into the town, with people expressing gratitude for the lessons of love and unity. Some families were even inspired to adopt dogs from rescue centers after hearing about Bailey. One morning, Paul received a call from a national organization dedicated to animal rescue and welfare. They invited Bailey and Paul to attend a major conference in Washington, D.C., to share their inspiring story. Initially hesitant, Paul eventually agreed, knowing that Bailey's story could bring about meaningful change. On his first trip to a big city, Bailey remained calm and composed, his intelligence and steady nature shining through. As Paul recounted the journey of rescuing Max, hundreds of attendees listened intently, many unable to hold back tears. Sitting beside Paul, Bailey occasionally glanced around the room, as if he understood that he was the center of attention. Returning from Washington, the small town began to draw more attention. A group of sponsors reached out to Mayor Clara, offering financial support to expand the Bailey Hope Center into a modern rescue facility, not just for pets but also for training rescue dogs. The project began immediately, with enthusiastic participation from everyone in town. On weekends, the Johnson family often came by to help paint walls and plant trees around the center's grounds. Max, now 4 years old, ran around with Bailey, laughing and shouting, "Bailey, this is your home." During the construction of the center, an unexpected event occurred. A family of visitors went missing in the forest after heavy rainfall severed communication with the town. The rescue team, now equipped with more members and advanced gear, quickly mobilized, Once again, Bailey led the way. Within a few hours, Bailey located the lost family, huddled for shelter in a damp ravine. The sight of Bailey wagging his tail joyfully at the strangers not only brought them a sense of safety, but also reinforced the belief in the power of love and loyalty. The family later returned to the town to express their gratitude. They shared how seeing Bailey felt like seeing an angel. The story spread even further, solidifying Bailey's status not just as the hero of the town, but also as a symbol of hope for many people beyond its borders. The town had now completely transformed. Families who once kept to themselves began participating in community activities. Children learned to love and care for animals through lessons at the rescue center. Even adults, who previously paid little attention to social issues, became more active in helping one another. Paul, who had once been a quiet former soldier, was now one of the most respected figures in town. Yet, he always emphasized that all the good things started with Bailey. "I'm just the lucky one who got to walk beside him," Paul said during a town meeting. Max, now older, often shared his story with friends. He never forgot the first hug he gave Bailey in the forest. To Max, Bailey wasn't just a rescue dog but his best friend, the one who taught him invaluable lessons about trust and courage. Years passed, and Bailey grew older. His once golden fur was now streaked with silver, and his steps were no longer as quick and lively as they once were. But his intelligent eyes and unwavering love for everyone remained the same. Paul decided to let Bailey retire and spend his remaining days in peace, living in their small house near the forest. One morning, Max, now a teenager, came to visit Bailey. He sat down beside the dog, gently stroking his soft fur. "You're the best friend I've ever had, Bailey. I'll never forget you." That day, Max took Bailey for a walk around the park, where the statue of Bailey stood. People in the town stopped to greet Bailey, as if saluting a hero. Bailey, though old, wagged his tail in response, his eyes sparkling with happiness. When Bailey passed away a year later, the entire town held a solemn memorial service. A small plaque was added beside the statue, recounting Bailey's story and all he had done for the town. They called him the Flame of Hope. The story of Bailey, Max, and their small town was not just a cherished memory but an eternal source of inspiration. Every time someone paused to read the plaque or look at the statue, they were reminded that love, loyalty, and unity can create miracles no one could ever have imagined.